All right, everybody, welcome out to this spontaneous training I put together for you guys. I wanted to go over some important concepts to help you, write better for your clients, but also, land more clients. These are some foundational persuasion concepts that apply across everything you do. Like in my little voice message last evening or yesterday night or whatever, I'm teaching you guys more than just how to be a copywriter, like how to actually write headlines and stuff like that. Like that's important and stuff, but the deeper understanding of how value works and how people's minds work around persuasion is something you can use to show up to any business, any time of the world's history and provide value. Any person and show up and provide value. So this is key to that. So let's go through this training real quick and help you guys learn some stuff. So can you guys see real quick? You guys can see my screen. You guys can see this loading thing as it fires up the presentation, right? Yeah, okay, perfect. Okay, so again, understanding how people perceive value and how they receive value is key to making money, right? Like the people who have a rudimentary fundamental understanding of this far outshine those who don't even think about it, right? So we're going to help you guys understand how this works, and I'm going to help you understand how you can use this in your copywriting and in your cold email outreach, your sales calls, everything to help people make changes in their lives and pay you a lot of money for it. So first thing you need to understand is, before we dive into like the value equation that Alex Hormozi shared, which is a really valuable insight, you need to understand how people work, how people perceive themselves and their future and their dream and all these things. So I've created a really, really professional diagram here to show you how this works. So people exist. They live in their current state, and their current state sucks, right? Generally speaking, no one's exactly happy with where they are. There's a lot of things about their certain situation that they don't like, right? And they have this version of themselves they would like to be. They have this future version where this dream state where their life was amazing, they wave a magic wand, they have more freedom, opportunity, status, etc., blah, blah, blah. All these great things, right? And they have a pretty good idea of what that's like, but they're stuck where they are now. They're also kind of worried that there's this like lower state. There's this thing they're afraid to become. There's this version of themselves they're afraid to become. They're kind of worried they already are that person a little bit, right? That's what I call like this lower or worse state, right? So this is how people are, right? So if they know where they are and they know where they want to go, well, why don't they just go there, right? Like, why don't they just like become that person? And that's because along the way, trying to get there, there's these problems that stop them from getting there, right? There are things that they don't know how to do or can't do very well that keep them from being that person and person having those things, right? Having all that, wonderful life. So as much as they'd like to, they can't, because there are these problems that stop them, right? And you come in and you provide a solution to these problems that conveys them from where their current state is to their dream state, right? And the reliability of this bridge and the enticing of this offer over here and the fear of this lower state over here is what propels them over the bridge into their dream state, which is what convinces them to pay you, hop on the bridge, avoid the problems, and get the things they want, right? This is kind of like, this is where those 4 under the hood questions come to play, right? Understanding, if you can understand really clearly what they would like their life to be like, you understand really clearly what their life is now and why they hate it, why they're kind of scared it's going to get worse, right? If you understand the part of the problems they don't understand that they're running into that are keeping them from getting their dream state, and if you know how the solution specifically addresses these problems and drags them from where they are here to where they want to be, like that will give you that will help you then present this solution as a valuable option for them, right? This is kind of like a fundamental, these are like the 4 fundamental questions. This is the basic understanding of human psychology. This can help you understand how to create value. You guys are doing the draw thing again. All right. 1 second, 1 moment. So. Let's fix this. All right. You guys can see this now, right?
Yeah, it's
Right.
good.
All right, cool. Yeah, don't like draw on this. I think I have it turned on where you can. So let's avoid that. Just keep it close. But anyways, you have these two versions themselves. You have the problems, the solution. One of the cool things you can do, and you guys have heard me probably talk about the two, like there are two kinds of people copywriting tool, is you can present the solution as something that proves to them that they are this dream state. They're this higher version themselves, and that not buying the solution is like proving to them and everyone else that they're this lower state of themselves, right? So these are so this is the sort of fundamental understanding of human persuasion that you're going to need to know in order to play with the value equations. Anyone have any questions about this and how this works? These fundamental questions. Some of you guys who have been around for like the fundamental 4 training and stuff like that, this might be some of the first time you've seen these concepts. Do you have questions about what this is? Like quick questions about dream self? Okay, Hilltop, what do you got?
I wrote this in the chat. It kind of reminds me of the scene in which Fight Club, in which the main character realizes is Tyler Durden, and Tyler Durden goes, people look at themselves every day and they see themselves as they'd like to be, but they don't have the confidence you have to just run with it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of similar, but it's not really the same thing. But
no, yeah, people have versions of themselves in their brains. Like this, it's a true point. Like the Tyler Durden, his projection of himself is telling him, hey, everybody is schizophrenic. Everybody has, at least everyone has multiple personalities inside themselves. They have a higher version of themselves and a lower version of themselves. They kind of like float around in like being some sort of mediocre version of themselves, right? What you're helping people would like to become this better version of themselves, but they're either too scared, they don't know how, they need help along the different solutions. You give them, and in many ways, you facilitate their personal mindset shift by presenting products and solutions that help them solve their problems to become that person, right?
So basically, you're Tyler Durden as the copywriter. You're helping these people.
In some ways, yes. In some ways, you're Tyler Durden, I suppose. Yeah. Similar concept, right? And this is gonna be important. We start talking about the value equation. We start talking about dream outcomes, stuff like that. So Jesse, what do you got? You got your hand up.
Just wanted a quick recap. I just got here.
Oh, you wanted a quick recap?
Yeah, like what are we talking about right now? Like, my bad my bad. I just got here.
Yeah. So if you guys are new, just like hunker down and listen real quick. What we're talking about is like how people perceive change and perceive their desires, and how you can present your solutions as valuable for them, right?
Okay,
so
cool.
People who are in their current state, they have a dream state they want to get to. The current state sucks. They're worried it's going to get worse. They want to get to this better version of themselves, but they have these problems that stop them. And it's your job as the copywriter to resonate with them. They are here, amplify their pain, amplify their desire, show them how they can use your solution to avoid their problems, right? Solve their problems more than avoid them. So, all right. All right, Kevin, what do you got? You got a question for me?
Yeah, I was just going to ask, or not, like most of the time, the solution that you're offering is usually presented in a way that's not like them actually having to do work, right? It's usually like, okay, got it. That you just
we'll explain that in a second. Like we're going to talk more about how you
I might be jumping.
No, good question. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. All right. So if you guys don't have any more questions about like sort of these fundamental concepts of how human beings perceive their lives and what they'd like to have and how they decide what's valuable and what choices to make, let's move on to the next part, which is let's talk about how people actually perceive value. And this is the value equation. So those of you who have read Alex Hormozi's book, $100 Million Offers, if you haven't, I highly recommend it. It's like basically required reading if you guys want to progress further with your copywriting skills, because it teaches you how people perceive value and how you can present products and services in a way that communicate greater value. It's called $100 Million Offers by Alex Hormozi. Really, really good book. Highly recommend it. If you're going to buy a physical version, that's cool. I also recommend you get the digital version because it's 99 cents and you can have it immediately and start using it immediately. So it's like basically free, very valuable. Anyways, so a lot of people in the past, when they describe value, they're like, value is like the thing you get minus the cost you pay, and the net is the value that they get, right? Or they might say, oh, here are the ways you can increase value is with something like NSBE, like New, Easy, Safe, and Big. You show them how it does this, and that's value. Alex Hormozi came along, he put a lot of brain calories in, and he came up with a really formulaic way to describe how people perceive people judge the value of a solution, right? So if you go back to if we go back to this, right, we've got, people, it's really like, how do you show them the value of the solution, right? So the factors that go into this, you have this top half of the equation, which is the dream outcome multiplied by the perceived likelihood of success, is 80%, 20%, 100%, divided by the time to get the outcome, 2 hours, 20 years, etc., multiplied by the effort and sacrifice you'll have to put in. Are you gonna have to put in 20 hours a day of work? Are you gonna have to never see your kids again or eat ice cream? Or like, what are you gonna have to give up in order to get this thing that you want, right? They're pretty simple concepts. So when you're trying to maximize the value that your solution provides, you want to increase these top pieces up here. You want to show them, hey, we're maximizing the value of the dream outcome. We're maximizing the perceived likelihood of success. Right. So in this case, it's like, no, look, you show them how amazing the dream outcome is. The thing that they're going to get when they walk across that bridge is going to be cool. You want to make sure that it's actually something they care about, something that they really, really want, right? You find their desire and tap into it, right? The perceived likelihood of success is like their belief in how certain they are that this solution will actually get them there, right? That it will work for them. Like they're like, well, does it work for my type of person, or does it only work for middle-aged women? Does it work for young 20-age males like me? Like, what is it? Like, how do I know if this actually works, right? For me, if you make them certain that if they know that this is worth going for, if something they really, really want, and that the bridge that you're presenting, the solution, has a high likelihood of actually getting them the result, then that top half of the equation is going to be maximized. You increase things as much as you possibly can. Make sense? Any questions about that? Any questions about this top half? No? Okay. So the other side is to decrease the bottom half of the equation. So if you're trying to increase the mathematical value of this, right? Like say this top part was 2 and the bottom was 2, and you were able to reduce the bottom from 2 to 1. So it was 2 over 1. You now doubled the value of the equation without even really changing these other things, but just by decreasing these. So the two elements on the bottom, you have time to get the outcome. So how long it takes between when I start walking on this bridge to getting what I want, or getting something that I want, right? How soon is it going to take? Is it going to take me a long time? The longer time, the less valuable it seems, right, to them. Something that gets them the same result, the quicker, is perceived as much more valuable. And the other side of it is the decreasing the effort and sacrifice. How hard is it to walk across this bridge? Am I going to have to give up everything I like? If I can minimize the amount of sacrifice that I go through, the more valuable it is. And Alex Hormozi gives a really good example to illustrate this concept in the book. So he talks about comparing like personal training versus liposuction for weight loss, right? So dream outcome is the same. They're going to lose the fat, right? Cool. Same dream outcome. You start to see differences over here, perceived likelihood of success. If you're like, okay, I signed up for a personal training program, I'm going to go work out every day for a year before I get this result. It's going to be hard, difficult, maybe it won't work for me. You think that there might be a lower chance of it actually working for you, right? And there's some bleed over between these concepts, but in the weight training or the personal training thing, you're like, well, there's a chance it won't work, right? There's a chance it won't work for me. Whereas liposuction, you're pretty certain. You pay the money, you show up for the surgery, the fat's they're physically gonna cut it out of your body, right? You know it's gonna work. Perceived likelihood of success goes way up, right? You look at time to get outcome, right? Hey, set an appointment 2 weeks from now, recover for 3 weeks, and then you're fine, right? You get the fat, your fat is gone forever, right? Immediately, really quickly, within the month, you'll be skinny, right? Versus if you go through a personal training program, hey, it might take you a year to lose all that weight. The time is much longer. Effort and sacrifice, show up for a surgery, they put you under, and then you wake up and you recover for a few days and you're good to go. For the liposuction, there's not that much sacrifice, versus you come to the gym, you train, you eat meals out of a little box or a little Tupperwares for like a month or a year, and then maybe you get your result, right? So you look at how those two are compared, and that's why you can sell liposuction for 10, 20, 30, 40 grand. And it's difficult to sell coaching for anything more than a couple $1,000 in a year, right? It's because the value, the way that humans perceive the value around it, is significantly higher, so you can charge higher rates. So that's kind of the example he gives in the book. as far as like comparing two different offers. So again, you want to maximize the top, decrease the bottom. Those are the two main things you want to do here, right? And I say this is the quickest way to boost value because I found, and Alex Hormozi verified this as well, the fastest way you can actually, most of the time, if you already have a solution to someone's problem, or if you're already in a market, if you can just show up and find a way to do it quicker and do it makes it in a way that's much easier, you can show up and win and beat and like do some significantly crazy stuff. There's some advanced outreach Aikido moves out there where I focus exactly on this bottom part and the results go out the, like you send out, for example, 10 emails, you get 5 positive responses. It makes your life a lot easier. Anyways, some advanced Aikido, you guys will soon be ready for that. And some of you will be smart enough to figure out how to use this to get that going immediately. But we can talk more about that in a second. But these are the two things you want to do. You want to increase the top part, and you want to decrease. You want to decrease the bottom part. And then there's another concept that's kind of a more advanced. Well, first let's talk about this. Who has questions about the value equation? Who has questions about these individual components and increasing versus decreasing, stuff like that? I'm sure there's some questions about the value equation. Anybody? No? All right, cool. Let's talk about the weak links. So another part that's really important to understand here is that there's an additional relationship just between just the top and the bottom. Yeah, you've got this division thing going on, but each element here has a relationship with each other. So if any of the 4 are weak, it destroys the whole equation for everything else, right? So say you're selling an amazing dream outcome, for example, like guaranteed $10 million in your bank account, right? Dream outcome, like that's what you're gonna get, right? The time to get it is gonna be 3 days from now. The effort and sacrifice is negligible, like it's like basically you're gonna pay whatever you pay for this, and then like you're gonna get the result immediately. Oh, but the perceived likelihood of success, it only works for 1 out of every 1 million people in the world, right? So tell me, like, how valuable is that thing? Even though it's instantly, even though it's fast, you make a bunch of money. Yeah, the lottery, right? And some people can kind of convince themselves that, and the only people that really play the lottery are able to somehow convince themselves that their likelihood of success is way higher than it actually is, right? Yeah, so with one weak link, you can lose everything, right? You need to make sure that everything's good. If you're selling something that's really good, dream outcome, it's going to work 100%. It's definitely going to work. You're going to make $1 million, guaranteed. It's 100% certain. No matter what, you will make $1 million. However, you have to work 23 hours a day for 80 years. How valuable is the solution now? Now it tanks, right? Any one of these elements can break the rest. You have to make sure all of them are dialed in or reduced as much as you possibly can. Now, however, a lot of you are going to be working with products that you don't control. You can't really like control the actual deliverables that are given to the person. So how do you then do this? Is it possible to imagine weak links for any product? Yes, let me explain. To understand really how to use this, you need to understand that perceived value and perception is based on comparison, and you can weaponize this idea. So it's not so much about what the absolute actual dream outcome or the actual likelihood of success or the actual time to get outcome or the actual effort and sacrifice is. It's what those actual values are in comparison to the other option, right? So for example, let's see, what's a good product we could play with? Let's do it. Hustlers University, right? Dream outcome, 10K a month, on your way to $1 million, right? Boom. Perceived. Oh, you want to go back? Well, questions about this. So perception, perceived value. Perception is based on comparison. It's how you compare one thing to the other. How you react to something, or how big or how small something feels to you, is what you compare it to, right? An ant is, a truck is giant compared to an ant. But when you compare that truck to the entire earth or the state that you live in, boom, it's tiny, it's minuscule compared, right? So what you can do, let's compare Hustlers University with something else. So let's say Hustlers University, dream outcome, 10K a month to, on your way to $1 million, good to go, be able to get an award, that sort of stuff. Good dreaming outcome, right? Freedom, opportunity, insight, escape the rat race, a lot of cool things, right? Good dream outcome. Perceived likelihood of success. Now And you look at it, right? And so you can compare this to, well, there's a certain level of success rate in Hustlers University. There's a lot of work that's required, effort and sacrifice. And we're going to talk about that in a second, but like there's a certain amount of people that succeed and it actually works, like 4 people, right? People that actually show up and use the stuff, right? It's pretty high for the people who show up and actually use the stuff that's taught. It's extremely high, like pretty close to 100% for people who work hard and actually do it. But the perceived likelihood of success, you can compare this to, okay, now compare it to what if you just go to university? Like what's the chances you become a millionaire if you just go to university? Or if you just like try and figure it out on YouTube, like by free YouTube videos, like what's your perceived likelihood of success? So likelihood of success with Hustlers University versus trying to figure it out by yourself. Well, it's significantly higher likelihood of success, right? If you compare it to just like 0 or like 100%, then maybe you'd be like, well, it's only 95%. That's not as successful. Anyways, you need to give them something to compare it to, right? Time to get outcome. You can get to 10K a month within like, which is going to be faster, doing it by yourself or in Hustlers University, right? Doing it, trying to figure out by yourself, Hustlers University. Doing it through like traditional education or Hustlers University. Effort and sacrifice. If you want to spend if you try and figure this out by yourself, it might take you 10, 20 years to even get close to this. Not to mention the fact that like the middle class is getting squeezed. The opportunity to make money now is going to disappear pretty soon. The door is going to close. You need to figure it out sooner than later, right? Effort and sacrifice. Okay, you're going to try and figure this out by yourself. Not only going to waste a lot of time, you're going to go down the wrong track. You might go bankrupt. You might lose all your money. You might have this problem. You might have that problem, right? It's all about what you compare it to. So when you're presenting your solution, when you're presenting this product or solution, it's how you compare it to the alternative. If you show them the alternative is significantly higher than whatever you're actually asking of them or providing, or like vice versa, if you compare it, you can play with perception by comparing it to the outside or alternate options to elevate the value that they're perceiving in the product or solution you're getting. So a lot of this is about how you then show up and help them with the comparison. You help them compare it to something else. So, all right. So cool. That's pretty much the basics of the value equation and some of these key concepts about how people how they perceive themselves, they perceive their desires, and how you kind of show up as a copywriter, help them. So let's do the Q&A real quick. We got some in the chat. Kevin, you got your hand up. What do you got for me?
So just make sure I got that last part correct. You're literally taking every component, the dream outcome, the perceived like the time, everything, and you're doing a comparison against it to help increase the likelihood to help them see the value you're bringing versus the other option. Is that?
Yeah, it's how you make this look, the dream outcome look even bigger, or the perceived likelihood of success look even better. So not only do you have a bunch of testimonials, but if you can compare the perceived likelihood of success of this thing I just showed you to the worst alternative, then now the perceived likelihood of success feels amazing. It's like, whoa, when you compare a 10% chance to a 100% chance, it doesn't seem that amazing. But if you compare a 10% chance to a 1% chance, it's like, dude, give me the 10% chance every day, right? So
Gotcha.
it's just what you compare it to and how you frame the whole thing. Yeah.
Got it. Makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah. Hilltop, what do you got?
So I'm just wondering about this time to get outcome and effort and sacrifice part, because you can't make it sound too unrealistic, because otherwise you're going to kill your offer, right? So let's say you're a scrawny Joe Schmo and you say you can look like Arnold in his prime in a month, right?
That's a non-believable.
And everybody knows a thing or two about fitness is going to look at that and go, no, it's bullshit. And then it's going to kill the value of your product, and then it's going to go. Then there's going to be no value. So there's a fine line that you have to walk when you're taking all these variables and into consideration, right?
For sure. Yeah. So you have to be able to back it up. That's a big important part of it. You have to back it up, and you have to realize it's about how they perceive the time to get outcome. Because if they perceive that it's a lie, and they're like, God, dude, a month to look like Arnold, that's a lie. Like, then the time to get outcome, it doesn't matter. All of this that then like is invalidated because their perception is this is all like a lie and nothing. So yeah, you have to make it. You have to walk the line of making it believable while making it interesting for them and valuable for them. So make big promises, but if you have an actual way you can show them that it works, you can prove that it's an actual legitimate system, and a good reason why they can get that time, like they can get in that short amount of time, then they're more likely to buy into it. And that again, you're more likely like finding a big claim, and instead of like lying about anything, just comparing it to something way more difficult. So that with like scrawny kid, if you're like, hey, look, I can get you to look, I mean, looking like Arnold is like, you know, he's Arnold Schwarzenegger, but if you're like, hey, I can get you, you know, this physique in, you know, in 12 months, right? Then that's a realistic time outcome. It's still a good thing. And anyways, we can talk about some other things. You also want to give them a quick win. So you want to be like, hey, and within the next 60 days, you'll gain 10 pounds of muscle. Like you want to give them a win along the way to like that longer. If you're going to be playing with long-term outcomes, then you want to give them quick wins along the way and promise them quick wins along the way. So they can feel like there's a chance that they can get in and see some changes really quickly.
So kind of sugarcoat the offer, essentially, is what you're doing.
Presenting it in a favorable light. It's less about sugarcoating and more about framing it in a way that makes it really compelling.
Right.
Yeah. Good question though. Alex, what do you got for me?
Okay, so can we apply this whole value concept when creating free cold outreach emails for new prospects?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Invest the brain calories, think about how you can apply this to your outreach, which the services you provide for people, all of them things. So yeah, this is definitely something you can include in the way you reach out to people and communicate with people. Fresh, what do you got?
Could you go back one slide
Sure.
to the value equation? All right.
Yeah.
If the dream outcome is, let's say for a personal training business, which is something I want to do myself. If you tell people, for example, you can get XYZ physique in this much time, like people always say you can get Arnold's physique or whatever, they compare it to other people, but that's unrealistic. And I've realized that. If I say though that people can get their best physique, does that get too obscure and not, I mean, people need to be able to visualize their dream outcome well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So you can't just be like, you can't just say, oh, you can live your dream life. Like that's overused and cheap. It doesn't mean anything, right? This is where it comes back into the research you do and the understanding you have of your target market and what they actually want, right? Like if they have, say you're doing this, like you have your avatar, you define one specific avatar that you're reaching out to, and you know that deep down in their mind, they're like, man, I wish that like when I like looked at myself in the mirror, like my arms like filled out my shirt sleeves. Like that's what I want, right? If that becomes a dream outcome, you can show that, you can turn that into, if you know how they think about it or what they say in their minds, then you make that the dream outcome. It takes some time and some research to determine what they actually have in their mind and what the self-talk they have in their brain about what their desires are. And then you plop that in for the dream outcome. So yeah, you can't just say something like, you get your dream physique. That means nothing. But when you can actually find the spot in their brain where their desire is and expand where they actually have and they've already thought about it, that's when the real value comes in, for sure.
I understand. Thank you.
Yeah. Alice? Yeah, Alice?
Yeah, so I just want to point out that I think the value equation seems to work backwards too with outreach. So like figuring out what clients would also provide you the most value. And I think it's a little bit more simple, but.
So you can game this for yourself. Yeah, when you're creating your own, you're like, okay, how do I want to do outreach? Who do I want to talk to? Okay, my outcome, I want to make this kind of money. I want to be certain that it happens. How can I do it as quickly as possible? And what's the most effective way to do it? Boom. Then you can judge how good something is in your own life versus by how much value it's providing you based on these equations. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Because that's one way you can look at it, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and basically just filtering out who you should be reaching out to.
Yeah, if there's like a 0% likelihood of success that they're going to get you your dream outcome, why talk to them, right? Or if they're going to be a nightmare client, there's no point, right? You want to be in high value situations. You want to earn your way into high value situations. Yeah. Yeah, good point. You can copyright to yourself. It's a valuable skill. All right, guys. So this is just a quick bonus training. This wasn't really supposed to be a giant long thing, but it's been good to kind of go over and answer some of your guys' questions. I will put the recording up in the chat for everyone else who wasn't there. If you guys have any other questions about this, I'll also put the slides as well. If you have any other questions about it, tag me in the group and the channel, and I will make sure to get to them later. But I hope you guys appreciated this. Seriously, take some time, piece of paper and a pencil, play around with the value equation for the clients you're reaching out to, like for your actual outreach, and also for the clients you're doing work for. How can I sit down and improve the way that their customers perceive their value? So this is valuable stuff. I will talk with you guys on Wednesday. Let's go take some cash.